You are the face of God. Let's sit down and let's open up in prayer. This is what we do here in Unity. We always start with centering ourselves in prayer. So I invite you right now to close your outer eyes and take a deep breath in. And let's just breathe out all of the activity of the morning, all of the things that have been engaging you, any thoughts and lists of what to do. Just let it all go. The good, the stressful, the fearful, it all goes. And with the next deep breath, let's just connect to that center, our divine nature, to the light of God within, to the light of wisdom, guidance, intuition, strength, wisdom. And feel that light energy filling us and moving into our heart center where we connect with the power of love. That love that is unconditional, that is eternal, that comes from God, that heals and unifies and allows us to know our oneness. And from this energy of light and love, just feel it moving out from you right now and filling this sacred space. Whether you're here virtually or physically, just let this light and love lift us, connect us, fill us. And moving it out into our community, into our country. Especially right now, see this light of wisdom and this love of oneness connecting each and every person as we experience this feeling of chaos and disconnection. And feel this light and love moving out into our world, especially to those areas that are experiencing violence or hunger, pain and suffering. Healing and lifting all beings. And envelop this light and love, enveloping our planet Earth. And we say, thank you, God, and so it is. And again, we're here on Sundays now with the intention, with the purpose of reminding ourselves how interconnected we are. And so we sang and opened up with You Are the Face of God. And right now we do our verbal acknowledgement of oneness, that the divine in me sees and recognizes the divine in you. So I invite you right now to just turn to whoever is next to you, could be next to you, behind you, and just say that the divine in me sees and acknowledges the divine in you. And I say that to all of you who are joining us virtually also. We see you, we feel you, and we appreciate that you are here with us. And now just say hello to your neighbor, however you would like that to sound. And for those of you that are joining us virtually, if you would like to get more information about anything, send us a request at our website with your email, and we can put you on our newsletter so that you can see what is going on in here, which you'll find out at the end of our service. More of those details. And so I was reading something just recently, and this was something that was written by Eric Butterworth. So he's a more contemporary Unity minister and author who's often, his work is often considered textbooks information about our principles, our belief system. But he was writing something about politics. And what he was saying is that in a very divisive time, when you have two political ideas that are in conflict, and we were just going through our journey with the eye of the storm, and what were we saying conflict was? It was just the butting up of the tensions of energy creates conflict. And I know we're all feeling it in this time right now as we move into this election cycle. So I'm going to go back, though, and use his words. This is not my idea. Well, I align with it, but but I loved that it was so pertinent to this moment. And what he was saying is, what we hold in our mind is what's going to get produced, right? And we know this law of mind action. We know that what we hold on to, so if we're holding on to fear, that we don't have enough. If we're holding on to separation, the you and the me and all of this kind of stuff, what we're holding on to in our consciousness collectively, now let's remember we have individual and we have collective consciousness. That's what's going to manifest, and it doesn't matter what you want. If you are letting your attention and energy go to what you are fearing. Does that make any sense? So we have to be conscious. Isn't that what this is all about? We have to be conscious of where we put our thoughts and our attention. So if I want something that sounds like what I talk about here every Sunday, which is oneness, if I want something that talks about what happens to you impacts me, which, sometimes we don't get into that because our individual self is really focused on, hey, what is this? How's this going to show up for me? How am I going to do in this situation? What's going to happen? That's the small s, the small self. But if I understand the principle of interconnectedness, that you are the face of God, that the divine in me sees and recognizes the divine in you, there is a collective consciousness. And if we don't allow ourselves to get caught up in what we might not want and stay focused in what we want, we will get that result. And I just found that a really interesting article, because he was saying candidate A and candidate B and all this kind of stuff. And in this conflict and stuff, and here we are today with something that is giving that kind of separation energy. And I'm not taking sides right now on politically. I'm just saying both sides are really rooted in saying this is absolutely right. So take that however it works for you. But it's coming from me as an affirmation of thoughts held in mind, an affirmation of how collective consciousness works, an affirmation that proves oneness, that when we have a collective idea, it is powerful. And now I'm going to bring up our platform leader, Melanie.
Good morning, everybody. Let's set our intention for this beautiful, cloudy Sunday morning with our statement of faith. Together, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life and affairs, God the Good. And now some music from the band. Greg and Susan. Oh, Susan and Susan. Susan and Susan. Yay, Susan.
This is my prayer, and this is for our week of prayer, the Unity Week of Prayer. Be with me, help me grow and learn and become what I wish to be. Give me, please, the strength to do the things that I must do, and the wisdom to know what they are. Forgive me when I am weak, but help me to grow strong. Abide
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. That was beautiful. Very beautiful. So today we're going to be talking about faith that moves mountains. This was the theme for Unity World Day of Prayer. So every year, Unity does a day of prayer. And many of you may have participated in different ways with it. We here at Unity offered several different options ourselves. We had our meditation services that were scheduled on Zoom. We had prayer circles here in the church and the noon prayer service. And there was an introduction in the beginning of the Wednesday night and an ending concert. All with the focus on faith that moves mountains. How many of you actually, just a show of hands, got to participate in any of those parts of this? Okay, well, not many. So that's, you're not going to be bored then, because I'm going to go down some of the ideas that we explored in this theme of Faith Move Mountain. So what does this mean to you, this statement? Faith that moves mountains. Faith that moves mountains. Well, most of us know that it comes from this saying by Matthew, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to the mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Now, this was an important idea for Jesus at that time because it's in all three Gospels. It's not in John, but it's in the other three Gospels. And what is this telling us? That it's a parable, first of all, right? So we're not really saying that if you have a small amount of faith, you're actually going to see something like a mountain actually move, because it's all symbolic. That's what a parable is. It's a way to tell us something. Now, in this idea, what it's really coming to me that it's saying is, let's look at this. What is faith? Let's start with that. What is faith? Is faith something that I believe in? I bet most of us would say yes. Faith is something that I believe in. In fact, in the Catholic Church, there's the Apostles' Creed, right? I believe in God. I believe in this. I believe in that. I believe in, and it goes on. In Unity, we never look at things as direct as that. So and I worked with Eric Butterworth on this because I just love his consciousness about what faith is. And what he said is basically that faith isn't a belief in God or in something. Faith is from God, moving in and through us, in which we live and move and have our being. So our faith, as small as a mustard seed. Now, in that time, a mustard seed, most of Jesus' parables were very agricultural or around the sea and everything, because that's where he was. And that was what the people that he talked to were living, that kind of a life. He wasn't in a cosmopolitan city. And so the parables were designed to give us food that as we grew in consciousness, we can see more and more layers to it. That's why it wasn't a direct answer. And that is why he talked in terms like this. But he also used the symbols that the people in the area would understand. And they understood that a mustard seed was very tiny. And that from this mustard seed there grew a great big bush. And the birds were able to nest and live in this bush. So what am I saying? Other than what it is. What I'm saying is that let's start with the seed. Within the seed contains everything you need to grow into this beautiful, the seed could be an oak tree, the seed could be flowers that just grow and profusely and go everywhere. In this, it's a bush, but this was a very common bush in that area. And the story goes on to say, and the birds nest in this tree. So birds, let's do this metaphysically. We have a metaphysical Bible interpretation class going on. And so we started with what was faith. And in the creative process of Genesis 1, before creation started, God is saying things. Let there be light. And it was good. So light is wisdom. Let there be light. Think about what happens when light pours in. You get to see things. You get a whole wonderful perspective. And one of the things that then is said in that first Genesis 1 is, and then there was filament that divided the heaven from the earth. We say in unity that this is faith, because this is between heaven and earth. This is the faith that opens the channel, between our spiritual self, this Garden of Eden, this kingdom of heaven, which holds everything within it, and earth, which is this human condition. So faith, as small as a mustard seed, it already has within it everything you need, but it has to be nurtured, right? The seed has to be nurtured, and then it takes time, it grows. So this is how faith works. If I just have the recognition that within me I have everything I need, that I am not just only human. Sometimes people will throw up their hands, well, I can't do that. I'm only human. How could I be expected to do this? This goes back to what I was talking about in the opening. That's then where your faith is. So faith is not something that we don't have, right? Sometimes people say, well, I have to get faith, or I have to grow my faith. Faith is like a mustard seed. We have within us everything that we need already. So what is faith? Faith is the presence of God within. Faith is the consciousness of the presence of universal source. I'm going to say that one more time. Faith is the consciousness of the presence of universal source. So that's the seed. That's the seed that's already within us. And that seed is going to be allowed to grow into this bush. Birds are thoughts, metaphysically. Let's just think quickly what that means. Birds fly. They float. They capture the current of energy. That's what our thoughts, we want our thoughts to be elevated to that place. So this is the story of the mustard seed, that it will move a mountain. Basically what that's saying is that there is nothing that's impossible. Nothing that's impossible. And some of us might stop there and say, well, what about somebody who wants to be a music composer and has no sense of music? Well, anything will be possible. I look at it this way. If you are drawn to music, regardless of where your skill or gift, I like to call it that, wherever your gift lies. Some people, okay, here's a perfect example of that limitation. I don't sing very well. In fact, my husband used to always say to me, could you not do that? It really is grating on me. He had perfect pitch, and I didn't. So I could say, if I have faith, I could become an opera singer. I would love to be an opera singer. I would actually love to be able to sing on any level because I love singing, and I still do it, whether it sounds good or not. What if I pursued my dream of doing something with music? It may turn out to be something very different, but it could be in the music field, and maybe I'm involved in some way that nurtures my soul without saying that I have to be, I'm born 5 foot, and now I say, well, I can't become 5'10". In my case, it's the reverse. I'm 5'10", but I can't become 5 foot. Maybe I can't develop at this point in my journey. It's not my gift. We have gifts. What about the people that are athletes that run? They just have this gift. Their body's designed in a way that has, I was reading about that with Michael Phelps one time, and what they were saying is that his body was designed, his heart, his feet, his arms, all of these things to be fast in the water, to swim. So sometimes we can't say, oh, I have the mustard seed that I'll be something that maybe isn't what I'm here to express in this journey. But it doesn't mean that I can't, that anything will be impossible. Because if I am called to express myself in a certain way, the most beautiful and wonderful expression of that will manifest. And I truly believe that. Just the perfect and right path. And I've seen that in my own life so many different times. So now, this journey that Unity Village offered, or Unity, Silent Unity, in their prayer story, had some reflection questions. And I thought we would just look at them. We don't have time to get into discussions. Maybe if you like this idea, we could do something like that, create one time where we come together to do that kind of work. But these are the ideas that I want us to ponder when we talk about what is faith, because it isn't just the concept. It is always about coming out of here and moving into the heart, moving into the experience of it. So how has faith empowered and emboldened your thinking? Just think about that for a moment. Have you had a moment that you can put your mind around where you've had faith and it has emboldened your thinking? When has it moved you from uncertainty to audacity in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges? So here we have the parable of the mustard seed, and that the move from here to there, to the mountain. Nothing is impossible. Have you experienced that? So I'm going to use a little story here that came from our, we're actually going to have this minister, Melanie, as our platform person, will tell us more about the details, but Reverend Linda Martello-Wissett has written several books, and these books are basically on prayer. And we have been focusing for the first half of this year on 2 of her books. And she's going to be with us in October doing a whole weekend prayer retreat. We launch it on Friday. So in reading what she says about the power of faith, she tells this story. So her story is one that she had fallen in love with this gentleman, and she was going to marry him. And her father didn't like him, and he said, if you do this, I'm going to disown you. And so that's what happened. She went ahead and she married him, and her father disowned her, but in such a way that it was very, very extreme. He said, there was a wedding that came up, and he said, if you're there at the wedding, I won't attend. At a funeral for her grandmother, he said, I'll walk out of the funeral if you're there. Now, how many of us in this kind of a situation wouldn't have become defensive, right? Well, if you don't want me, I don't want you. Putting up all those guards on our heart. What Linda did instead was she centered herself in love. She centered herself in love, and she stayed focused on love. And she said, I know, even, this is faith, looking beyond appearances, right? Isn't that what faith is? Because we're not talking about the literal. This is a parable. Everything is a spiritual. Everything is consciousness. So we're not talking about out here at manifestation at this point. But what she's doing is she's focusing on love. And this is faith, to have the faith that she could stay focused on love regardless of what he was saying, regardless of what he was doing. This went on for 9 years. And for 9 years, she had some children. He didn't see the children. And she taught the children that your grandfather loves you. He just doesn't know you. And as soon as he knows you, you will feel that expression of love. So she did not allow herself to go into the negative. Because again, let's go back to what I said about faith. We have, wherever we put our energy, okay, so if I say I can't do that, I'm really having faith in limitation. I'm saying I can't. I'm expressing faith in that. So the shift to say that faith is the consciousness of the presence of universal source means that I have to have a shift. Consciousness is just being awake and aware. So I'm becoming awake and aware of the presence of God within me. That God is the source of everything that I need. That's the seed. That's the mustard seed. So what she's doing is she's saying, no, I'm not going to get caught up in the small self, in the fear, in the anger, in the, well, if you don't want me, I don't want you. I'm not going to let my children experience that. I'm going to stay rooted in who we really are, which is love, unconditional love. That's not easy. Think about that. Unconditional love means, even in this moment that doesn't feel good, that is actually antagonistic, I'm going to stay rooted in unconditional love. But that's where she put her faith. And I've got one more thing to add to this story because I think it's a really powerful part of it. She also said, even if we don't reconcile, even if we don't come together in this love, in this lifetime, I know that our spirits will find the way to do it in the next, when we leave this planet. So sometimes our faith puts time limits on things, don't it? Doesn't it say something like, if this hasn't worked by now, 9 years, if this hasn't worked by now, I'm giving up. She even said, if it doesn't happen in this lifetime, well, in 9 years it did happen. They reconciled, they were able to recognize that this love overcame everything. The children got to know the grandfather, and that was the end of the story. So she got to experience the actual end result of her faith. It moved the mountain. She overcame the challenge. And one other thing that happened that I recognized that she didn't write about, but it had to have happened, is she didn't give herself pain and suffering. She kept it a higher level. This is what faith offers us. Faith is a higher vibration. She stayed positive. She stayed focused on the good. She stayed focused on love. Think about what we could have experienced for 9 years if we had just stayed in what was the literal happening. How could he not love me enough? How could he, all of those things, and what does that cause? That causes pain and suffering. So faith, this is how we empower and embolden our thinking. When we don't get caught up in the literal, when we can stay in the consciousness of everything that we need within us. All of the resources were there. I'm sure there were times when she had to draw upon strength, determination, dedication. I'm sure there were times when she had to draw upon release, letting go, recognizing that I'm upset about something. This is really starting to get to me, and just letting it go. That's the power of release. I'm not saying just because she stayed focused here, it was an easy, smooth ride, but that's the beauty of this. Faith is centering your consciousness in God, and the power of God is always present in you. The activity of God is centered in you. It is the foundation of being. So what that simply says is that when I stay focused on the God that I am, because another term that Eric Butterworth uses is what does he say? The beingness of allness. We are we are being from allness. And that simply says that I am a being expressing as one from this allness of God. We are each an expression of God. That's the oneness that we talk about all the time. And in that consciousness, I can move mountains. In that consciousness, I can stay connected to this kind of unconditional love, which is our true nature. So, next question to think about. How has your faith grown through periods of disappointment and heartbreak? Okay? Think about that for a second. I kind of touched on that a little bit with that story. So basically what it's asking us is, what happens when you were maybe thinking you were holding on to faith, and when nothing happened, you kind of felt like giving up? But how has your faith grown? How have you moved through that? How have you moved through that? I had a very interesting experience, and I think I shared this a little bit with everybody here, but I am going to share it as this example. When Bob died, when my husband died, which is a little over a year ago, it was in May, the first couple of months, I had an experience that I didn't anticipate. I have been on a spiritual journey for about 40 years, and I've been a minister for a while. I've been studying truth. I've been studying at Unity, all of this truth stuff. I became a certified spiritual educator at LUT, and then Masters of Divinity, which was, I stepped into that and said, whoa, what did I sign up for? But I stayed the course and did it. So this all began, the classes, I guess, began around 2008 when I started this journey with Unity's principles. So I went through my son's death, and I said, that's how I became a minister, actually. I had been on a different path, with business and stuff. And then that just like, I need to fill my heart. And that's what started me on this needing to take all these classes and know this stuff, and then ending up as a minister. So I wasn't expecting the reaction I had when Bob left unexpectedly. So I said, what is my purpose? What was this mad drive to become a minister? What am I doing? What am I doing up here in Raleigh all by myself? And it really startled me. To me, this would be almost saying okay, for 40 years I believed one thing. I had this deep-rooted faith. I trusted in the process and everything else. And now I'm cracked open and I'm saying, what's going on here? What am I doing with my life? What is my purpose? So my faith has grown because that startled me. I didn't expect to have what you might call the dark time of the soul, where you just go. Jim Rosemergy, who was my minister before I became a minister, what he used to say is the journey of the soul, and he used to call these detours. And he had actually a little map like this, because our journey doesn't go this way, it goes this way most often. And then these little detours. And these little detours are these moments where we get to perhaps grow. That's what we learned in the eye of the storm, right? We can have these challenges that come about, and sometimes they come so unexpected. And if we can get caught in it, and I could get to be very sorry for myself. Oh, look what happened, and it was a little startling because I'd never lived alone. I had a son and I had a husband, and, I wasn't used to this. It was a whole new, stepping into a whole new thing that I didn't plan, okay? It's kind of like thrown in the deep end of the pool, and it's kind of like, okay, so now, do you want to swim? So What my faith taught me was that I can just do the practice that I've always done. Do what comes natural. And even though there were times when I couldn't focus, I would sit down in my chair and I would read stuff. And I would then close my eyes and I didn't, meditation wasn't coming easy for me at that point because I couldn't focus. But my faith told me that if I stay doing the things that I've always done, I will get those results. And my faith helped me move through other challenges. And it was like with my son. I was able to walk through 4 years of a health challenge with him. And I would call Silent Unity for prayer support almost on a regular basis. My meditation, the connection of the people I was involved in that were on the same journey with me, supporting me through that. And I knew that existed for me. So to me, my faith grew because I was able to see what my new purpose was. And that I could be okay growing into something different. That everything that I was used to, my comfort level blew up, which anyone here like it if your comfort level blows up, the things you're used to, right? It's a very challenging time because change isn't easy, especially when it's not something we plan or we get ourselves emotionally ready for. It's just like, boom, here it is. You know, it's like that hurricane comes and your house disappears and now you got a new way to approach life. But faith can take us through that. Because if I remember the whole principle of what faith is that faith lifts me. Faith allows me to be open to my good. That faith gives me the ability to stay on my course, even when it doesn't feel like things are turning out in the way that I expect them to or not. That if I just stay and work through the heartbreak or the disappointment, I will come to the other end. Look past appearances and know the truth. And that is actually the principle that I wanted to talk about with this idea, because faith is not a miracle catalyst, but a principle. So I wasn't looking for a miracle. I wasn't looking for a quick solution. I understood that as I focused on truth, as I focused on faith, which is a principle, and what is the principle of faith? We started with that, right? That we have within us the seed, we have within us everything we need, we have within us God. And when I am centered on God, this is the principle of faith, that when I am centered on God, I can move mountains. When I'm centered on God, I can walk through any challenge. It doesn't matter if it's a challenge of the soul or if it's a challenge that comes because your house goes away in a hurricane. It doesn't matter what the challenge is, because that is the principle. And a principle doesn't need God to say yes or no. And this is the beauty to me also of understanding God the way we do, because God isn't a being out there that is available to help us when, or punish us or rescue us. That's faith in. That's a passive, that's a mental activity. What we're saying is faith from God. That moves it into the experience of this. How do we live from God? So if God's not there, but God is this presence, this mustard seed, this DNA within us, we were told we were made in the image and likeness of God. And we're not, everything is spiritual, everything is consciousness. So we're talking spiritually here. We're talking about that spiritual center within us. That's the seed, the DNA. I have within me everything I need. It may not come that instantly, That's what I really want to remember also, that it's a process. The bush didn't grow overnight. The mustard seed had to come up through the ground, grow, blossom, before the birds nested in it. As long as I remember that faith is a principle, if I focus on faith, I'm focusing on truth, that it will work. It's the principle of turning on the switch and the light comes on. It's a principle because we harnessed the energy to create electricity. We didn't create electricity, we harnessed the energy to create electricity, and it is neutral. Anyone who is tapped into this energy, this current, can turn on their switch and have light. And faith is a principle that works the same way. We all have this DNA within us. We all can choose to focus on this principle. And as I focus on the principle, I build a spiritual muscle. Now, here's the other part of it. I move myself out of the negative and into the positive. That's part of it. Because let's go back to my story. If I stayed in the negative of poor me, now I'm alone, now I have to do all these things that I don't want to do. I'm still working that one out. Takes me a little longer. I'm not a fast study here. Still learning the cooking and the bills and all of that stuff a year later. But it doesn't matter. You know what? I actually caught myself in the kitchen the other day and I said, you know what, I'm just doing these things now, and I'm not thinking about it, and I'm not, it was kind of an adjustment because I hadn't cooked for 27 years. And so now I'm in the kitchen, and I have to do this cooking, and I'm like, not liking it. Ooh, resistance, pain and suffering. Okay, but it took me a bit of time. Like I said, I'm a little bit of a slow study, but I just caught myself doing it now, and it's like getting easy. I can't even believe it, but I'm actually doing cooking in the kitchen. Nothing fancy, because I don't like mess. But that is the principle. The more I stay focused on the positive, it builds the spiritual muscle. We start to see that growth of that bush. And I'm going to wrap it up with this question, reflection. What are the ways in which you can join your faith with others in response to communal crisis or collective needs? All right, let's think about that. We talked about the collective consciousness. We've been talking about faith from the individual consciousness. We have to start there, right? Because I have to wake up. I have to do my practice of learning how to live centered in God. Centered in God is the mustard seed. I have to learn how to tap into that. Consciousness is the connection to the universal source. I have to learn how to do that. So that's the part that happens, because once I make that commitment and I step into that discipline and practice and process, then I'm able to connect with light. Then I'm able to join my faith. Now I'm talking about positive, and that's what we started with in that first little talk, where we can stay focused on the good. I can be with others. World Day of Prayer is the perfect example of having a day dedicated to studying these ideas and coming together and saying, we can do good. We can be one. We can recognize and be there for each other. So how can you connect with others and activate your combined faith to move mountains? Because everything has movement. I'm going to just go with this, okay? Everything in life, in nature, has movement. Even when we start talking in Genesis 1 about God, there's movement, there's creation, there's ideas that end up becoming manifest. So we have the movement of the seasons, we have the movement of the life and death of different plants and trees, of people. We have this whole interconnectedness. This is consciousness. This is the collective consciousness, and it's always movement in it. So my individual work has to come out. And that's also what Jesus said when he said, shine your light. You can do what I can do. And what was he doing? He was working with the marginalized. He wasn't sitting up on the mountain the whole time holding the high watch, but he did go up to the mountain, up in consciousness. This is metaphysics. Up in consciousness, the mountain symbolizes that. Up in consciousness, getting his consciousness into this universal source. And then from there he comes down. And he heals, and he teaches, and he feeds, and he does all of these things with the everyday person, because that represents us. We're the everyday person. And he was ministering to us with this message, a demonstration. And so we too have to say, it's not good enough that I'm getting filled up with my spirit and that I'm, my life is looking pretty good. I've been holding the high watch for myself. And that's good. We are told to, right? We're told to. We start there. We start there and we build our faith. But then it has to be expressed or it dies. Any river that gets blocked up becomes stagnant. It has to have a flow. Life is designed this way. Or we get stagnant and it gets polluted actually, right? It becomes unhealthy. So we have to remember this whole process of movement. So faith starts here and pours out, and we as a collective consciousness can come together. This is our invitation. We can come together in prayer. And from prayer, we get to see what is it that we want to do. So we've got a lot of opportunities in our country right now. There's lots of ways that it could come out from in how you want to present yourself with the politics, but it also can come out in how do you want to help your neighbor. We don't have to go to the biggest stage. Are we being considerate? Are we caring for those that need some help right now? Are we showing up the way Jesus was showing up for all of those people that were marginalized? That's the question. How does our faith activate us? According to your faith, let it be done to you. According to your faith, let it be done to you. So just hold that one in mind for a moment, because that's an invitation to understand our interconnectedness also. To understand that as I care about what happens to me, it's going to impact everything. And that is the invitation, that if I care about you, it impacts me. And I get to experience love. I get to experience that unconditional love. It doesn't have to be only through one person, that somebody that you think is going to, which we're designed to love also. So I'm not putting that down, but I'm saying it's a bigger story. It's an individual story and it's a collective story. And we come here for that very reason, I believe. This is a perfect example of how to connect your faith with others. To come here, to be reminded of our oneness, to be reminded of the fact that we can overcome obstacles, no matter how big they are, by opening up to the presence of God within. That's how we do it. That's how we move the mountain. To be reminded of that, and then to be reminded that, and it's not enough to heal myself, I have to care about you too. I have to be the light shining out into the world. And so it is. Amen. So let's take this idea now into meditation. And just think about those ideas that we talked about, those reflection questions on faith. What does faith mean to you? Have you found yourself being able to tap into a faith that could move mountains? That you could draw on with each challenge, with each obstacle, with every pain and suffering. Because faith is a consciousness of the presence of universal source. Faith is a connection to God. And the more we understand that we get to choose what we're focusing on our good, focusing on our strength and determination, focusing on love, this grows. Our faith grows. Our spiritual muscle grows. And as we come together, there is power in the collective consciousness, a power that is more mighty than any massive weapon. We can change everything through faith. We can move mountains. Nothing is impossible. And take a deep breath in with me now. Just move around a little bit in your seat. Open your eyes when you're ready, and let's sing our Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
And now let's invite our usher up. This is the time we get to participate in another law, the law of giving and receiving. And we know that just like the river has to flow, we have to give to receive. It sounds contrary to, what logic tells us, as does all spiritual principles. So giving and receiving. And those of you that are joining us virtually, you too can participate in this important part of the service, supporting our sacred space, our community here, by pressing the donate button on our website or simply mailing the check directly to the church. So let's take out our love offerings for today and say this affirmation together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am and have, and all that I give and receive.
All right, we're talking about faith. There's a little bit of faith. 1, 2, 3. I'm looking at the situation. Things are getting too out of hand. My soul needs illumination, but that's not quite in the plans. Got to give it up. I'll surrender. Take it back. Mark it out. Return to sender. All it takes is a little bit of faith. Faith is all you need. All it takes is a little bit of faith, the size of a mustard seed. Sometimes I stop and wonder, just what do I believe? And the current drags me under. It's impossible to breathe. Am I giving up? Oh, it's sink or swim. When I've had enough, oh, I remember to give in. All it takes is a little bit of faith, the size of a mustard seed. All it takes is a little bit of faith. Faith is all we need. Never going back, never going down, never going under. I just keep the faith, knowing that I'm safe from the distant thunder. All it takes is a little bit of faith, more than the eyes can see. All it takes is a little bit of faith, faith from you and me. All it takes is a little bit of faith, the size of a mustard seed. All it takes is a little bit of faith. Faith is all we need.
Thank you, Greg and the band. All it takes is a mustard seed. We were thinking in consciousness, Greg. We heard each other. So let's bring our love offerings up now so that we can bless them. And let's just go right into gratitude. Thank you, God. Thank you for these gifts that are so freely flowing. Thank you for the gift of prosperity. Thank you for the gift of abundance. Thank you for the gift of divine ideas and possibilities. And we understand and affirm that we are here together in consciousness to grow, to love, to support. And this we say, thank you, God, and so it is. Melanie's going to tell us what is going on.
So after the service, we're going to finish up our World Day of Prayer rocks. We're going to be finishing up writing our words on them, and then if it's not raining, we'll go set them up out front on our yard in a spiral labyrinth, which will be very nice. Also, we have a guest speaker during our Teams meeting. It's a Teams meeting pizza party over here. Reverend Reginald Edwards is going to talk to us about a core team potential project that we are very excited about. So come to the Teams meeting for pizza. We'll have a little bit of Teams business, and then Reverend Reginald will give us a short talk about what the Encouraging Place ministry is all about. So we are glad to have you here today. Thank you. We need volunteers. We need somebody on the video. There's Kat back there doing a fabulous job videotaping the service for the live stream. And if anybody wants to help take pictures with your cell phone, see Reverend Ellen. Greg's the man to talk to about video. It's really easy. Even I have done that, so you can do it. I just had to be reminded which was the on button. But you can go wild, panning and moving. And anyway, it's fun. Maybe not wild, right, Greg? So Tuesdays, Reverend Ellen is teaching a very popular class. It's Metaphysical Bible Interpretation. It's at noon here at the church and via Zoom. And then the class meets again at 7 o'clock that very night, Tuesday night, via Zoom. So join the class. All the logins are on the website, and you can talk to Reverend Ellen after the service about it. Something I'm very excited about, being the prayer ministry leader, is that we have a very special guest, the prayer rock star of our faith walk, Reverend Linda Martello Whitsett, is coming to Raleigh, and she is going to be conducting a day-and-a-half-long prayer workshop. So it kicks off on Friday, the 18th of October. It's a 2-hour session, and then continues. That'll be here, and then continues on Saturday at the Chapel Hill Unity Church, a 5-hour session with her, and it's going to be just great. I'm very excited. You can go on the website right now and buy your tickets. $140, or you could do $40 for Friday night, or $100 for Saturday, and Friday you can attend via Zoom, which is nice as well. So do join us. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait for it. Our friends in Greensboro, Reverend Wally's Church, Unity in Greensboro, they are hosting Eddie Watkins Jr. We love his music. He is awesome. So he's going to be in concert there next Saturday, the 21st. It's early, so you can drive to Greensboro. It's at 5 o'clock. And he is recorded with Marvin Gaye, Barbara Streisand, Cher, Diana Ross. He is wonderful. I've seen him on live stream at the World Day of Prayer events that they have, and I just can't even imagine him being live. So it's going to be great. So you can buy your tickets at unityingreensboro.org. And our sister ministry, the Unity Holistic Wellness Center, today at 4:30 we have our Vibe Up with Stacy, and that is a sound bath, meditation, and yoga, very popular. Saturday the 28th, in 2 weeks, Tom Ronan Goddard is bringing us Changing Your Relationship with Meditation. No, it doesn't have to be a chore. No, you don't have to sit a certain way and tangle up like a pretzel. Meditation should be refreshing, beautiful, and fun. So check that out. Our website is unityholisticwellnesscenter.org. And of course, right after we wrap up with our prayer for protection and peace song, we will have a healing circle, our healing prayer circle, and then we'll enjoy pizza together. So do join us. Reverend Ellen?
And Tom Goddard, Ronan Goddard, he used to do meditations at the Shalom Summit in the Catskills. So he's got a whole history of being a therapist. He did Gestalt method of psychotherapy as well as meditation. So I think it's something, if you come and you want to just get more exposed to meditation, come and do that. It'll be wonderful. He's very dynamic. So let us now sing our prayer for protection. Or sing it. The light of God surrounds us.
The light of God surrounds us.
The love of God enfolds us.
The love of God enfolds us.
The power of God protects us.
The power of God protects us.
and the presence of God watches over us.
The presence of God watches over us.
Wherever we are, God is.
Wherever we are, God is.
And all is well.
All is well.
And now let's stand and sing our peace song together. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, united all are we. Yes, we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me. Yes, this is the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyful vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. And as we go out from here today, hold in memory that my faith can move mountains, and that faith is the consciousness of the presence of God within. And so it is. Amen. And we stay in a circle right now. We do our prayer circle. Unity was built on prayer. We started as a prayer ministry, holding a healing prayer. Myrtle and Charles Fillmore would meet with everybody, and people would call in with what their healing needs were. Closing up our circle. They would call in with what their healing needs were. And what was discovered is they didn't focus on the need. They focused on the principle. They focused on the divine idea behind the challenge. And that's what we're going to do right here, right now. But we know that where two or three are gathered, there am I. That there is power in this prayer that we're doing today because of the collective consciousness of like-minded people here who are coming together knowing that God is in who we live and move and have our being. That is the very presence within us, and that this is how we're praying. We're praying knowing this and feeling this presence of God within, unleashing that mighty power that can move the mountains, that overcomes every obstacle, that power that makes nothing impossible. And so as we step into this truth with faith, with a knowing, a faith that comes from this center within us, we just hold this faith and truth for every person and situation that we know that they're feeling perhaps illness or financial struggles, loss and loneliness, whatever is the challenge. Maybe it's just a fear of what's happening in the world and in our country right now. Any of those things we place into this center right now, because this is where the presence of God is felt and lifts and heals and unites us all. So you can say the name of the person or situation out loud or to yourself that we want to hold in prayer. And so it is. Amen. So before we sit down to eat our pizza, which is here already, that's the good news, we are going to follow Melanie. I think she's going to lead us in this activity. So Melanie, why don't you say what you want us to do?
Okay, let's see if it's raining. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, so what we were going to do is take the rocks outside and create a labyrinth.
Okay, so the rocks are on that side table. this is, and I want to just say, we've been talking about faith and we've been talking about prayer. Let's do this from a consciousness of prayer, from a consciousness of we lifting, these rocks were painted with ideas of faith. So we're going to stay on this consciousness of faith. Pick up your rock, bless the rock. This rock is a symbol of the fact that we came together to create this spiral, and a spiral is exactly that. It's how do we move up? How do we move up in consciousness together? So let's take our rock.
Take 2 rocks
Let's take 2 rocks,
and let's go out.
and we're following Melanie.